agenda that gives a rise to pecuniary interest or conflict? Okay, seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. And then we have one addition to the agenda, item 3.1. It's the meeting minutes of December 9th, 2019 are there. And Lana has handed them out to each of you, and there's other copies available if anybody requires same. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended? Councillor Lloyd makes that motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have item 4.1. We have the request for decision on the outdoor pool. Welcome. All right.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm bringing back this from the last Council meeting of December 9th. Council made a motion to go ahead with the RFP and as a result of the public engagement, and that we work with the citizens and come back to prior to June 2020 as Roger. Councillor Homing made a motion for. So the proposed budget for this project is $265,000. That's to replace the mechanical system, repair the parts on the pool that broke, and update the system to come to Alberta Health Services standards. So I have a proposed schedule, post RFP this month, December of 2019, award the RFP in January 2020. I'm discussing with MPE the best time to actually award that RFP for a contractor. We don't want to do it too close to Christmas because we want the best interest possible from as many contractors as possible on this one, so to get the best price. I would like to start construction January 2020, construction end May 2020, and the pool open by June 2020. So my recommendation today is that Council approve the proposed budget of $265,000 from the pool replacement reserve and direct our administration to award the RFP to a qualified contractor and proceed with the pool repairs.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Is there any questions? Councillor Chapman?
I'd be happy to make this motion, and just in advance of the motion, I understand from one of my colleagues at work this morning that that this was already put out on the news as because their finance number was exactly what you quote here.
Yeah, this was from the report that we had from last week, so that would have been public information in the last Council agenda. So the news would have pulled that report, and they would have had the numbers from that report. So
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion from Councillor Chapman to, okay, Councillor Lloyd?
Question, please?
Okay.
I'm just questioning your construction end date for May. Does the pool not usually open on the long weekend in May?
I believe it opens usually the first week of June.
Okay.
The last time we talked to
Since
Cindy
usually
and Terry,
construction takes longer than what is expected, so.
Yeah, I'm giving that already a kind of a 2-week window. Middle of May is when I'm planning on posting for the end of construction on the RFP. That's giving that 2-week window. It's going to be a tight deadline with some penalties. So.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we have the motion by Councillor Chapman.
Just a quick clarification. So the last time this appeared before council, that was an update on the assessment that was undertaken by a third party, that being MPE Engineering. The resolution that was made was to post the RFP, which is subject to the council budgetary approval. This is the subject to portion of that equation. So the funding approval will be given life today. The explanation took place at the previous meeting. So just to explain why there's 2 different times this has appeared before council.
Very good. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, and no opposed. That's good. Thank you. We have the utility bylaw.
Good afternoon, everyone. So in front of you, we have the 2020 utility rate bylaw for you. This is maintaining 2019 rates with 0% increase. Other than that, nothing else is, or essentially nothing else has changed in this bylaw. The 2021 and future utility rates will be evaluated in the future once we have more time to review the implementation of the town's asset management program and the infrastructure master plan, which we anticipate early 2020. Is there any questions on this bylaw? I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions through the administration? Councillor Pauls? Can you use your mic, please? Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 5, number 5, 5.1, like, we're gonna have one solid waste per week? Like, per month, it says every calendar for one solid waste and recycle pickup. So.
Yeah, it's not that there's only one pickup per the month. It's it could just be a poor choice of wording. It's just that's the monthly charge for the.
Okay.
Yep. So there's no change in any of the pickups or anything.
Okay, thanks.
Just to build on Councillor Paul's comment, so it says $29.50 per calendar month for one solid waste and recycle pickup per week. It's actually every other week for solid waste, so that's a good catch
Oh,
on
it
your
was-
part
it
for
was-
service level.
It was a little bit funny there, yeah.
We
And
can
there's
make
no
that change.
compost in it
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, no, that would be an outdated clause from a previous bylaw, but the service level, there is no intent for it to change from what's currently in place, to your point.
Okay,
So
thank
we
you.
should just make that note on 5.1 to ensure that the existing service level is stated in the bylaw. This is, the primary purpose is to establish the rate, but we gotta make sure we get the fine print correct as well, so, thank you.
Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and just following Councillor Paul's question, that was the same one as I had, although 5.2 uses the same wordage. Is that, should that be consistent with the domestic as well, with that change? And also, if you're commencing, I'm thinking of composting, so that's a totally separate item, so that doesn't start in January. Okay, so 5.21 would be the same wording, I would think.
Yeah, we'll review it just to make sure if there's any clerical errors, it's in line with current practices. I do know there is a slight difference with commercial, so it probably won't be the exact same as 5.1, but we'll confirm those to make sure they're accurate.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. 4.3, there's no wording for out-of-town consumers shall be charged as follows. Is that the way it's supposed to be? 4.3?
On page 4 and 9.
I believe it just it breaks it out to domestic and commercial there
Okay.
as it follows, so I believe that's correct.
All right.
I will confirm though.
And my final question was with regards to you're charging per residence or dwelling unit. So 2310 on 3.1, just as an example, 2310 per calendar month per individual dwelling unit. Is that would that be per meter, or each dwelling unit has its own meter?
That's something I'll have to get back to you on.
Councillor Holm?
Sidebar here, I believe the 2310 is the base rate per month, and then there's an additional $1.93 $0.9093 per cubic meter additional. So I think the 2310 is your base monthly charge.
And just through the chair to Councillor Chapman, to your question, dwelling unit is correct. The previous practice was service line, but not all infrastructure arrangements are created equal. So that's why it was changed to unit, regardless of what the infrastructure, underground infrastructure situation included. So that was an outcome following the utility rate bylaw, not utility rate, but the utility bylaws themselves. That was one of the key outcomes from that review process. Yep.
Okay. So I believe if, would be in order if council wishes to sponsor first reading of the bylaw as amended with administration to confirm that all the wording aligns with the contemplated service levels. Councillor Chapman? As amended? Okay. Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question, all in favor? That's carried. And because the MGA doesn't require this to have 3 readings, we have the ability to do all 3 tonight if we wish, so does anybody care to sponsor second reading? Councillor Pauls, all in favor? You,
I want to make sure we get the wording right before I vote on it.
opposed then? Okay. Okay, and then we have a motion for unanimous consent, so I mean, somebody can make it, might not have much chance, but Councillor Avery?
Thank you, Worship. So kind of speaking what Councillor Holm was talking about, what's the implication if we don't pass this today and we wait till our first meeting in January where we can see that the changes have been made? Because I'd hate like heck to put something through that has the wrong service level and it doesn't get changed before January 1st. And then that's what the new service provider starts providing to the residents. So I would just like to hold off. So I just wonder if there is going to be any type of implication if we hold off on it.
My assumption to your question would be that council would have to consider just maintaining the 2019 bylaw, utility rate bylaw as previously approved, and just maintain those rates or that bylaw until this is updated. There must be something in place to charge utility rates next year, so just maintaining what we have in the interim would suffice.
But I believe that the contract that we have with the provider doesn't necessarily, they're not guided by our utility rate bylaw. We already have a service level agreed to with the contractor, so they'll continue to provide the prescribed pickup and delivery of the various streams of waste as per their contract, and so this would be a separate document. Is that right, administration?
That's correct. And further to Kyle's comments, given that council has indicated that there wouldn't be an increase in utilities from 19 to 2020, it's not as if we're going to split billing cycles with one rate to another. Council's intent was to keep the rate the same, so it, from a billing perspective, shouldn't be too problematic to take this to council in the first meeting in January.
Okay, all right. Okay, so unless anybody else wants to do anything, then we'll presumptively just skip down to 8.1 then. Well, you'll have to come back. Yes, somebody can make a motion to direct the administration to bring back an amended bylaw for review at the first meeting in January then. Councillor Holm? Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right, and then we have Mark. give us a PowerPoint presentation on CORE. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and good afternoon. So I'm here for you today to provide an update on acquiring our Certificate of Recognition, or otherwise the acronym is CORE. So I'm going to go over a couple things here just about some information to do with CORE. What is CORE? Why would we want to get it? How we attain CORE, how we maintain it, and then what our score was for this year. So first is our certificate, the Certificate of Recognition, and what it is. It shows that an employer has a health and safety system that meets provincial standards. The Occupational Health and Safety sets these standards, and through the certifying partner, and ours is the Alberta Municipal Health and Safety Association, they provide the certificate if you pass your audit, and then it is co-signed by Alberta Labour. So why would we get our CORE? Well, having a CORE shows that an employer has a good safety program, and with any good safety program, there are some studies that have been done. The UBC in 2018 held a study of Alberta CORE holders between the time period of 2011 to 2015, showing that CORE holders had 21% lower lost time claim and 13% lower disability injuries. So with lower injuries, obviously you get lower WCB claim costs. With those, with having CORE, you're also eligible for a rebate with WCB between 5 and 20% on your premiums. And then ultimately you have your CORE, you have a functioning health and safety program. It improves morale within the company. And of course, higher morale includes with higher productivity. Final thing is for contractors, having CORE is a competitive advantage. I know that within the city of Calgary, they ask that all the employers who apply for jobs have CORE, and they kind of shortlist their contractors that way. So how do we get our CORE? The external audit is done. And this external audit shows how a functioning health and safety program has been running for at least the last 12 months. Within the audit, there are 10 elements that we look at that are up on the screen there. Each of these elements go through a review process that has 3 components. It goes from a documentation review, job interviews with employees and management and supervisors, and then finally an observation tour, just so all the documentation they've reviewed, all the interviews they've done can be confirmed by actually going out and seeing the worksite itself. At the end of all of this, if you score above 80% and above 50% in any of those 1 categories, you pass. So maintaining CORE is done by it's on a 3-year cycle. On year 1 is when the external audit is done. When you pass that, you are provided with a series of improvements that can be done to the health and safety program. You create an action list from those from that list, and you implement them. And then in year 2, you'll do an internal audit. Year 3, the same thing happens. Year 2, your audit's done. You have a safety program put in place to make improvements. Then year 3, you go through the same audit again. And then finally, since 2019 is when we've done our external, 2022 will be our next external audit. And for the big information here, this is the graph that shows the 10 categories of the audits that we had just been through, the score for each of those categories. And our overall score was 90%. So following the information I'd given you on how you obtain a CORE, You need 80% total score to pass. So we have passed our audit and we have achieved core again. So our next step is to develop a safety plan to improve the program that we currently have, and then start anew in 2020. So just take a moment to open it up to any questions, and thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Mark. Do you recall the aggregate score that we got for, was it 93% or something like that?
Our final score was 90%.
90%?
Yeah.
Good. Any questions through to our presenter by council? Councillor Chapman?
Worship, thank you for this great report and congratulations on this recognition. That's wonderful. My only question with regards to your second last slide, which just talks about the score and the other parties that might be addressed there, would you know, are those external parties that you're speaking about that would be scored on this, or internal parties?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding.
So your slide on our score, and we're talking about other
Item number
parties.
6, the one in the number 6.
Number 6, other parties.
Oh, so yes, other parties is in reference to contractors, residents who may be near the work site. It's just how is your health and safety program assigned to protect contractors, self-employed persons, and people close to the vicinity of the work site.
Any other questions? Kalen, you want to add? Oh, Councillor Avery wants.
Any time has the town lost their core?
Yes, back in 2017,
Okay.
core was lost.
Okay. And so is this our first year getting it back?
Yes.
Then 2019? Thank you for that. That's excellent work.
Thank you.
Mark had the privilege of that, but it's thank goodness that all the other elements are working well, and it was a collective effort. I assume that we were able
Absolutely.
to achieve that, re-achieve core status, so that's good. Good to know that we're got a safe and healthy work environment. Keelan?
If I may, Mr. Chair, just add a few words. Mark has done an excellent job since his arrival here, taking our safety program to the next level. And I'm really proud of the work that's being done across all levels of the organization in terms of safety, and I think the results are starting to show. This is the new baseline, and we're going to focus on continuous improvement. So while Mark's here, I just wanted to do a shout out to Mark, who's really quarterbacked this whole safety process, and also the buy-in from all levels of the organization with the new emphasis on safety. We're quite excited about that.
Right. It would be in order to receive that presentation for information. If anybody, Councillor Simpson moves that report be received for information. Discussion? Call the question? All in favor? Okay, that's. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. Cindy, welcome.
All right. Well, this started out being for information purposes as a request from, I believe, the last council meeting. But in the process of putting it together, actually some recommendations have been, or we are requesting council to make some decisions on some of the events that we currently have. So as you can see from your package there, we have 11 annual events that are budgeted each year. 7 of them are very high profile. One of them is currently under review by our department. One is a new event, and then one has not been implemented yet after several years of being in the budget process. And one event also was tried several years ago, but it didn't prove to attract much attention. So I put together the slides. It's all in your package there, and we're just asking council for, I guess, your feedback on the events. If there's any, should we leave it as status quo, or are there some events that we should maybe not proceed with and go forward with that? So.
Thank you, Cindy. Is there any questions or comments from council? So within your report, you made different recommendations
Yes.
as per each event.
Yes.
So if council accepted your report as presented, then the recommendations would be embedded in that.
Correct.
That's the way I would understand it. So does council have any questions or concerns with any specific? Councilor Chapman?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Cindy, for following up and putting this report together. It's very concise and very clear in terms of where the successes have occurred. And my question to you would be regarding the Volunteer Appreciation Week. Could you just help us or enlighten us as to what may have happened in 2017 with attendance, and then in 2018 dropping down to 55, and
Right.
if there's an opportunity to do something later? I think you're going to be following that up with a further recommendation later, but maybe just help us understand a little better what went on there.
Correct. So in 2017, that was our first year of planning it. It was held in October, I do believe. It was well attended. We still had to follow up quite significantly, so we didn't get RSVPs back in a timely fashion either, so we did have to follow up. There was quite a bit of work done there. In 2018, we did move it. It was in June that year, with everything else happening that year as well. We just pushed it back, and we're thinking that potentially that was just a very bad month. June, school is coming to a close. People are starting to plan summer vacations. That could have been part of it, but we did invite over 200 people to that event, and it was just, like I say, for one reason or another, it was very poorly attended. A lot of work does go into planning and execution of the event. And then in 2019, with the centennial events, all the centennial events happening, it just, the two of us, we just couldn't fit that into the schedule for planning because, like I say, we have elevated that a little bit. So I'm thinking it potentially could have been the time of year. But it's, but I'm also thinking volunteers are very busy people as it is, and potentially it's just people have got other things going on all the time. So, So when I put in there that we're kind of looking at potentially revamping it, we're just investigating potentially maybe simpler things like just doing shout outs or during volunteer week or something like that in lieu of a big event. But again, that would be up to council to decide how big an event they would like to do that. I don't want to, the volunteers are so critical to everything that we do. I definitely don't want this coming across as it's not important, because it is. It's just, is the interest there, or do the volunteers who are so busy have time when they have a free night to potentially come out? So, yeah.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I'll maybe just add, that's the reason our recommendation was just to maintain the full budget amount for this year, just to give us a little bit of time to maybe come up with a few options that we could potentially present to council, and that might help if we have some options for you to choose from and see which way we'd like to go.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. Councilor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I think one of the big ticket items here, Cindy, and I appreciate what you've done here with Settler Days. And I think, obviously, this budget that you're proposing here is very robust. And I think the idea that the fireworks would stay intact at $15,000. I think that's kind of a recommendation that's come forward both from the public and and elsewhere, that be one of the highlights of the year. Of course, the parade candy would probably be around the 5,000 again.
Yes.
But I think really inside of that budget, you're really highlighting, and it didn't really come out till just now, the idea that the petting zoo, the face painting, and all the other incidentals, and the music, and some of the people that you want to keep attracting to Coaldale for that day is really important. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness and what else goes into it other than just, fireworks and a parade.
Right, right.
Okay. Hey, council, any specific questions of any of the events? So might be appropriate to have a motion to accept the recommendation and associated budget, overall budget ask of $90,050 for 2020. Councillor Pauls, any discussion? Councillor Lloyd?
Can I just ask one question, Your Worship? Christmas skate has been $900, $952, and you're budgeting for $4,300 next year?
No, 1,200.
The current budget for 2020 is 4,300, so we're just asking to scale that back.
Okay.
Basically, we want to save some money there. We don't spend it, so
Thanks.
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so we have Councillor Paul's motion. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Okay, 8.3. Welcome back, Kyle.
So I'll just start by saying that the proposed operating budget we have will just have to be updated for the previous change from community services, as council mentioned, but that shouldn't be too difficult. So last year, council approved the 2019-2021 operating budget. This year's budget for 2020 to 2022 is essentially carrying that budget forward with very little new spending and a focus on efficiency of operations, of where we can look at some of our high spending items and how can we make them more efficiently from a cost perspective. So per the MGA Act, we have to have an annual budget every year, even though we have long-range plans in place. This budget does present council's commitment to the residents and the businesses of Coaldale to increase services while maintaining fiscal responsibility. The proposed tax rates for this are based on assessment projections from December 2019. We'll know the final figures in April 2020. As part of the 2019 operating budget, a 120 recreation levy was applied to all developed residential parcels within the municipal boundaries of Coaldale to fund and design the construction of a multi-use recreation facility. To offset this cost to the residents of Coaldale, a 0% increase in the residential municipal tax rate was mandated for 2019 and 2020. With a focus on reviewing internal operations and identifying efficiencies, council has provided further direction to reduce the residential municipal taxes by 1.38% between 2019 and 2020. This decrease, in combination with the recreational levy, if we compared it to a compounded 2% increase, would result in no change in tax for the average residential taxpayer in Coaldale. The non-residential municipal rate for 2020 will remain unchanged from the previous year. This represents a 2% increase for non-residential taxes after considering inflation. few highlights from the 2020 budget. The collective cost of salaries, wages, and benefits have been reduced by $12,000. Other operating expenses have been reduced by 3.5%, which comes out to $333,000. The reduction in expenses do not result in any reductions of service levels for the residents and businesses of Coaldale. Rather, these savings are a result of reviewing external contracts, many of which were RFP'd, which have resulted in various operational efficiencies. In 2020, it is expected that the total RCMP costs will climb to just over $1.4 million. It is important to note that the town of Coaldale remains the only municipality in Canada with a population between 5 and 15,000 residents that pays 100% of the RCMP policing resources. All other municipalities in Canada between 5 and 15,000 people pay 70% of their costs for policing. There was a $107,000 reduction in our photo radar and traffic fine revenue as the province, due to their change in budget, now takes a higher percentage of this revenue. They are now taking 40% as compared to 27% in previous years. An additional $20,000 has been redirected to Settlers Day events in order to maintain the fireworks show. An additional $15,000 was set aside to enhance the Festival of Lights show. This budget also includes a 0% increase in municipal utility rates. So below in the staff report is a summary of the tax support by department, as well as a 3-year comparative of revenue and expenses in this budget. Further, in the new year, we will be releasing our budget book once that is completed in January, February. So any questions from council, I'd be happy to address those now.
Avery?
Thank you, Worship. No question, just a comment of being, I just want to thank administration for being so fiscally responsible, finding all those savings for the municipality. And I think, once again, this really shows the ratepayers that think we're overspending. We're really not overspending. They just need to understand where the money is going to and where the money is coming in. Again, thank you guys very much for this. And, I really appreciate us being able to stick to the 0% for the 2 years.
Well said, thank you. And then this is today's operating budget is quite reflective of our robust discussions of last year, and not to take away anything, it was because of that good discussion and the foresight that was happening last year that we didn't have to have a real major overhaul of the 2020 operating budget, and therefore it's just the minor adjustments here or there, whereas I think going forward, probably during 2020, it would be good to have a strategy on how to engage the public as we explore the 2020 budget when we're done. But this is really good. This is the second year in a row that we're able to pass. Well, we were actually able to pass the operating budget and not just kind of put a Band-Aid on things and go with an interim budget. This is a well thought out operating budget. So again, as per Councillor Avery's comments, our congratulations and appreciation to all the people that invested so heavily in time and resources to make a great operating budget. Okay. So unless there's any questions or discussion, we could get a motion to adopt the recommendation to approve the 2020-2022 operating budget for the town of Coaldale. Councillor Avery, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And perhaps it would be good to make a motion to request administration bring back a public engagement strategy on how to engage for the budget process of next year. Councillor Holm?
I think that's an excellent idea, Your Worship, and I would certainly move that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Okay, thanks, Kyle. Well, now we have a repeat performance. That by popular demand.
Well, and this one kind of alludes to the last time I was up here. So since I've started with the town, on the budget line has been set aside for Recreation and Culture Achievement Awards banquet. I'm not sure of the history prior to just seeing the documentation. At any rate, this event just has never gotten off the ground. And as the report says, I'm just asking council to consider potentially becoming an annual platinum sponsor for the Coaldale and District Chamber of Commerce Awards and Appreciation Banquet in lieu of hosting a separate Achievement Awards banquet. And if this is so, if council so wishes, to make intentions known prior to January 6th if there's interest in joining the 2020 awards with the Chamber. So in discussions with Colleen, there's an opportunity for us to basically join forces. The Chamber will continue to own, I guess you could say, the event, but we would become a part of it. And what they would be asking is for platinum sponsorship, which would be $2,000. We could have up to 6 different awards that the town would present on behalf of the town for Rec and Culture. And like I say, the cost would be the sponsorship. We would purchase our awards. They'd be the same potentially as the Chambers, but we would put the money towards them. And then also we'd purchase the tickets for the banquet. Currently they're running at $60 a plate. So that would be the expense to us, but then the Chamber would do all the work. So they'd put out for the nominations, they'd take care of putting everything together. But then we're able to just sort of combine forces and have one awards banquet for the town instead of having 2. So it was just an idea, an option that did come up, and I thought it was worth investigating, so.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Any questions for Cindy? Councillor Lloyd?
I think it's a great idea to work together. My only concern is because right now the awards nights are quite lengthy already, and we add 6 more awards to it, just might get too long. I don't know if that's a consideration or not.
We could definitely just, we haven't really gone into too much depth. I wanted to check with council first. I just thought it was an interesting idea. So that's definitely something that we could discuss and just see what the timing would look like. I think that was a concern of Colleen's as well. So I think it's on their radar as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Holm?
I agree that they do get a little long, but to only have to have one evening a little longer than having 2 evenings of long, I'm totally in favor of us working with the Chamber on this one.
Councillor Chapman?
Your Worship, maybe a couple of questions here through to Cindy, if I may. The Recreation and Culture Achievement Awards really never got off the ground for resources reasons, or there isn't any appetite in the community for this, or where were we?
I can only comment on what I know because this was prior to my coming on board. I think it was resources were definitely an issue. You have the complete package. I did include the complete list of awards and that. This is just on a personal note, one of the things I thought some of those maybe didn't quite fit for Coaldale either at this current time. So yeah, it was a little bit confusing for me just to kind of understand what we wanted to get out of it basically. So but resources have definitely been an issue for sure.
Could I speak a little supplemental, if I may? Thank you so much, Your Worship. Just I think for myself, and having talked to a board member from the chamber today, that there's kind of a time need for this, and so obviously the membership invoice is due January 1st, so that they can get started on this project and then set the dates. I guess the committee that's working on this, the events committee, is still working on terms of reference for the, especially for some of the awards. So how that's put together and who decides and what and who makes the terms of reference, whether it's a chamber-driven idea or whether it's a town-driven idea, that's sort of a handoff to the chamber to carry through. And then on the event night, you know, how that's going to be portrayed and presented. So whether the chamber has their awards and then the town, you know, the mayor presents his award, our awards on behalf of, you know, or in conjunction with the chamber. So I think there's some logistical issues that committee will need to work on. But in the meantime, they're looking for, you know, I guess add all those dollars up would be $3,000 to do this. And I guess you could almost make two motions out of this, one being to be a platinum sponsor of the Chamber of Commerce, and secondly that there be a terms of reference on the awards. So you could almost have two components to it. The part of that just takes me to another step, and that is that if council, just to throw a bit of water on this for a moment, just to put a position that if council were to decide that maybe the 2,000 is a little steep for this year, that maybe a gold membership or bronze or silver membership, does that change the terms of reference is the deal breaker or the deal maker the $2,000?
I think from my understanding, again, we haven't gotten into too much detail. Like I say, I did want to check with council first. But the $2,000 would allow the town to have like up to 6 awards, and absolutely the mayor or whoever we chose would present. So it almost come across as being like a joint award event, basically. That's what the $2,000 would do. Now, I don't want to speak out of turn. When you go for the gold sponsorship, I think that's just strictly a sponsorship. I'm not sure if there's probably, I would assume there might be a couple of dinner tickets involved with that. Again, I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know the answer 100%. But the $2,000 would allow us to participate more so in the event than a gold or a silver sponsor would.
Thank you. I think even from myself, I believe that this is really a clear indication from the chamber as an olive branch for council to partner and to collaborate together. I think that's a really wise step forward.
Councilor Avery.
Yeah, thank you, Ursula. So a couple things I'm just not clear of. So are you looking for council to consider becoming a platinum sponsor or the town to become a platinum sponsor? And is this another budget ask over and above the budget we just asked for, or is this the money that you've already got in your budget, that this is really an operational decision that we don't need to interfere in your business because we've already approved $3,350 for you?
That is correct. So, so your first question, I guess that depends on what council feels. I thought it would be a town sponsorship, but again, that's just my opinion, but it's up to council there. And yes, you're absolutely correct. In the budget, in the operating budgets, $6,500 has been allocated to this event for the last 4 years, and it has not been used. So in lieu of that, this would cost us around that $3,000, so which would be about half of what was currently budgeted for the event. So that has, like you said, you are correct. That is what I had recommended in the first one.
So really, we should just trust you and let you do your job.
Oh,
Right.
silly.
Okay, Kalen?
Just a quick question through to Cindy, not to put her on the spot, but when this idea was conceived of a couple of years ago, one of the question was what venue in town and how many people would be able to attend, because if you pool the number of people from the chamber list already with those who would be receiving other awards, for instance, is there a venue that's in Coaldale that would be large enough to have both entities?
We were, again, when Colleen and I were talking, we were thinking probably, like currently it's held at the museum. We'd probably have to move to the community center, but again, that would be very limited. I think maximum capacity is 250 people, where a museum is about 100 and, for sit down, about 160. So there is a bit of more wiggle room there, but it's still not great. Yeah. Good question.
I think it's a great idea, and like, I think we've already approved it as per Councilor Avery's astute observation with the operation budget. And the sponsorship requirements that are listed within the staff report seem to give good parameters around awards. There's 6 different bullet items there on it, so I would suggest that we probably, I doubt that it's likely that we'd have 6 different awards and whatnot, and
Right.
like I would hope that we make a, staff would come back and tell us the different award
Absolutely.
categories at some point in time, and that we would have meaningful, significant award winners, and not be dilutive of a process of having too many categories and whatnot. So I think we can just receive this report for information. I think it really can, we've already given the budgetary approval, and look forward to moving forward on this.
Okay, perfect.
On that note, Your Worship, that basically, just for this budgetary motion we just passed earlier, then it just automatically puts us in as a platinum sponsor? Okay, all right, thank you. Or would the chamber request a separate motion from us? Maybe.
I don't
Okay,
think so.
all right.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Councilor Holm?
I'd move that we accept this for information and allow Cindy to do her job.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have a motion that tells staff to do their job. I think receiving it for information will suffice, but thank you for that. Any discussion? All in favor? Good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, we approved the minute. Yeah. Did we approve the minutes or not? Maybe we, okay, we'll skip back to 3.1, and we adopted them in the agenda, so we'll skip back to 3.1. Thank you for that, yeah. This is why it's a special meeting. Okay. Does anybody care to deal with the minutes? Councilor Simpson moves that the minutes be adopted as presented and circulated today. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Okay, thank you. That's all in favor. That was unanimous, I believe, so. All right, now, I think that is all that there is for the public session. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Councilor Lloyd, all in favor? Okay. Thank you for coming out, Nikki. Have a Merry Christmas.